Studies show that mentorship and sponsorship are key drivers of success.
Welcome to the Marketing Mentors podcast brought to you by Red Pandas Digital. My name's Linda and I'm here with Tasha, and in today's episode we're talking about mentors. So, touching on what Tasha just said, studies show that mentorship and sponsorship are key drivers of success. So having a mentor or a sponsor can help you do things like land pay rises, you ask for more stretch assignments, and just generally they lead to faster career development.
Mm-hmm.
Tasha, I know you have some stats on your side as well.
I do, yeah, and I'll share these in our show notes. These are from Guida-AI, and there's a couple of stats here. Now, most of these are probably from like US or UK numbers. We know that AU numbers aren't as big, but some of them are still quite relevant. So this one here is interesting. 84% of Fortune 500 companies have mentoring programs, and 100% of Fortune 50 companies. So there's a big emphasis there on some of these big organizations actually embracing mentorship and mentor programs. Another one that I really like is out of those that have a mentor, 97% say they're valuable. So again, another key indicator there that the people that are being mentored are truly believing that it's, well, the big majority rules there, having a mentor is valuable. Another one that was really interesting is that 89% of those who have been mentored themselves also go on to mentor others. I really like this one as well because I'm personally being mentored. I know you are as well, Linda, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But it's kind of showing that like evolution of learning and growth just keeps going, and that kind of circle of giving and then giving back and getting gifted and giving back in a mentor and professional space is, it's a real thing.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So T, why don't we get started into just mentors in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously you touched on the fact that you have a mentor, me as well. What mentors actually do?
Yeah, I like that question, Linda. So for anyone listening or, thinking, what is a mentor? What do they actually do? What does it look like? We're going to talk about that and then some, and like give you some tips as to how to find one and all that type of stuff. But let's start with what a mentor does. So for me personally, my mentor is a great source of advice. So when there's these moments of uncertainty or overwhelmingness or murky waters, my mentor offers me advice first and foremost. Definitely, and I'm coming at this from from a professional point of view. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong, I think your mentor can be a friend as well. We'll talk about that in a bit. There's different types of mentors, but advice for your professional development is kind of where the angle that I'm coming at. They definitely teach and lead by example.
So T, can I just ask you on that? When you say like advice for professional development, are you talking about day in and day out advice on daily things that happen? Are you talking long-term career?
Yeah.
Is it both?
I think it's a little bit of both, but for the mentor-mentee relationship, like the traditional one that we're kind of kicking off with, I would say it's more so, hey, mentor, how do I push myself to get myself to this career? Whether it be like senior management, CEO, or whatever that role.
Hey, if you want SEO.
Yeah, why not? How do I get to SEO? Doesn't really make sense, but hey, like whatever tickles your fancy. In terms of what else a mentor does, they celebrate your accomplishments.
I like that one.
Yeah, when they see you succeed, when they see you grow and get that job that you really wanted or get that promotion that you really pushed yourself hard for, they celebrate that with you and, remind you that, hey, you did this on your own, with some guidance, but that's, what you did. That's what they do. They guide you.
I really like that one because as a mentor, you are along on their journey.
Yeah.
So you see the lows, you see the highs, and it's someone that can just really understand what you're feeling in that moment.
Yeah.
So it's nice having that person that you can celebrate with.
Yeah, and share that win with.
Yeah.
The other thing that mentors should do for you is challenge you. So they should challenge what you're thinking and how you're behaving in your professional space. Yeah. They should be, we referenced last week, radical candor. They should be radically candid with you and not beat around the bush or have ruinous empathy. They need to tell it how it is, be direct. And sometimes you will hear things from your mentor that you might not want to hear because they're being radically candid with you and they're saying, hey, you need to do this or you need to cut that shit out. Otherwise, you're not going to get any further with what it is you're trying to do. So I think those are the key things, what a mentor does for you. So there's advice, guidance, teaching by example, leading by example,
Do you think that can I ask, with that last element, so that element of being radically candid, right? Do you think that a mentor should be delivering the message in that way? So making sure that they're communicating that they care highly about you,
Yeah.
but they also can challenge you directly as well.
Definitely. I
Yeah.
don't think there's any space for ruinous empathy in a mentor-mentee relationship.
Yeah.
I think if you have someone that has ruinous empathy, so they care for you too much, they can't give you the direct feedback that you need, that mentor isn't going to challenge you. You're not going to get the hard, honest truth sometimes that you need to hear. And that's a fine line between obnoxious aggression, which is like the other quadrant of that, that chart
framework,
the framework we're talking about. So someone that can be radically candid with you and say, look, Linda, if you want to get to X in your career, you're going to have to cut this out and focus on that.
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to get you there, or that's what's going to hold you back. You would rather someone say that than saying, oh, Linda, you got to try a little bit like this or a little bit like
what
that.
What do you think you should do?
It needs to be, it needs to be something,
and
direct to the point and no fart assing around.
Yeah.
To that point, Linda, I want us to get over to the next section, which is who can be a mentor.
One thing as well, T, I might just add on to that, right? So we defined what mentors do, but there's also sponsorship. And although we're heavily talking about mentorship today, I think sponsorship is also another part of it. And the clarification between the two really is that sponsorship is someone that endorses you. So, for example, there's someone that endorses you on LinkedIn, or they recommend you.
Thanks for that, by the way.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for returning it.
Yeah, of course.
So there's someone that endorses you on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
They recommend you for roles as they see them. They really look for ways to create opportunities for you and make connections.
So is it kind of like a reference when you go for a new job? A reference could be a sponsor type of thing?
Yeah, and I guess with mentorship, you kind of see that overlap.
Yeah.
But I guess the main differentiation is that mentorship is really like the advice, the guidance aspect of it, and then the sponsorship is helping create opportunities and making pathways for you as well.
Yeah, cool. Awesome.
And they kind of work together.
Yeah,
really.
Thanks for clarifying that. So that's mentor versus sponsor, similar, but there's slight nuances between the two.
Yeah, yeah.
So then, Linda, who can actually be a mentor and or a sponsor? So if we're talking about that now.
That's a good question, T.
You're
That's a
welcome.
loaded question.
Yeah.
Personally, and I think you and I agree, there are really no rules when it comes to mentorship.
Yeah.
We've obviously spoken about the more traditional aspect, and we should stay on that for a second. So that's where you have someone that's really accomplished in their career, and they're mentoring an up and comer, really. That's kind of following the same footsteps as them. But the mentor is someone who's really accomplished, many years in their industry, has a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
And they're really paving the way for that person. And I know that's what you
I
have,
can definitely
right?
talk to this one because that is my relationship with my mentor. So not that I don't think it's any surprise. Most people probably know. And if you don't, Moby, who is the CEO of Red Pandas, is also my mentor. And when we connected all those years ago, he kind of, I'd like to say took me under his wing. I kind of just jumped behind him and was like, I'm going to come along for this ride.
On the Cape?
Yeah, on the Cape.
Just flying along.
Super Moby as he goes. What a plug. Anyway.
Hey, Rise.
Yeah. His head's just going, shoo. Anyway, we're talking more along the lines of he'd been in the marketing industry for almost 10 or 15 years at that point. I hadn't. I had no experience in it, and he was able to shed a lot of light and advice and guidance. He obviously saw my willingness, eagerness, hunger to learn and grow, and he grabbed that and said, this is what you should do, this is how you should do it. Also, obviously acts as like a reference for me, so a bit of a sponsor, I guess you would say. And he's a personal friend of mine as well. So he kind of helps me in a mentor relationship in all aspects of my life, not just work, but definitely work because, he's also got a vested interest in that being my boss, funnily enough.
Of course.
But, we have a relationship outside of work as well, which is not in that mentor relationship. It's, Tash, this is what you need to focus on, personally, behaviorally, who you are to help you grow in every aspect of your life. So that's that's something that I've had for some years now. So grateful for it. And when we didn't work with each other, when we weren't seeing each other every day, I really needed that. I needed that guidance.
Right.
I needed that advice. At certain points earlier in my career where I thought I wanted to go in one direction, not that he stopped me from doing it, but he really made me think, like, is that what aligns to where I want to be with my own career? Mm-hmm. And it's funny because at that time, I knew he wanted to hire me, and he could have said, no, don't do this because I want to give you a job.
Right.
He let me go and spread my wings in one area, and I failed. I didn't get what I wanted in that certain like element where I went for. And he was there to say, I'm glad that you tried and you didn't get that because of this. I didn't have the experience. I applied for a job where you needed a lot of sales experience and I didn't have any.
Yeah.
I got really far in the interview, which I'm stoked about, and I'll take that as a huge learning experience.
Yeah.
But I just did not have the sales experience at the time.
Yeah.
Probably now, but, you know, it didn't line up. But he was in my corner the whole time pushing me to challenge myself and do something different and learn from my failures. And I did. And then when I did, funnily enough, that's when he offered me the job at Red Pandas. So having him as a mentor through the last 3 or 4 jobs that I've had has really helped push me to become the person, the leader, the professional that I am, but also keeps me hungry because he's got his own mentors pushing him doing that, and then that trickles down into me. So to that stat that I mentioned before, 89% of those who have been mentored continue on to mentor others, and like that is living proof in itself.
Yeah.
Right there.
With the way that you guys kind of have that relationship, right, that mentor-mentee relationship, is it more so where you have like delegated time and sessions to discuss that sort of stuff, or do you find that it's naturally and just drip feeds into everyday conversations? How does it work?
Yeah, that's a good question, Linda. I think when we didn't work with each other, we had to have those set times. We needed it because we weren't going to do it otherwise. And like, he's got kids. I didn't have kids then, but, you know, he had kids, a life, a business. So you have to put that in the calendar and say, come hell or high water, this is my mentoring session that I need to do. And the advice he gave me, I had to be an active learner and do it. I couldn't just listen and then go off and not implement anything. So if I didn't implement it, like, why? He's wasting his time. So that was then. And then when we started working with each other, seeing each other every day, it became less formal. And it was more so along the way of the business growing and my role growing. I had to learn in a certain way, and, you know, he sat right next to me. So he was able to say, Tash, try this or try that, or I wouldn't have done it this way, try doing it that way. So it became it was almost like the traditional mentor-mentee relationship, but a big element of peer-to-peer in there as well.
Yeah.
Because he was my peer, telling me, showing me, training me, pushing me on certain things.
Mm-hmm.
So now less formal, but I would probably recommend anyone starting out or finding someone that wants to be a mentor, make it like a habit. It has to be in the calendar every fortnight, every month, whenever it is. It needs to be in there, something that you keep going back to. Yeah. Not just willy-nilly here and there. No, there needs to be like, it's like going to the gym. You go every day so you can get a goal.
Yeah.
You see your mentor every week so you can achieve your goal, whatever it might be.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
What about, Linda, the other non-traditional types of mentoring?
Yeah, I guess there's definitely a few, right? So as we touched on, there's peer-to-peer, and then there's also someone who's young and mentoring someone who's maybe just behind them, following the same footsteps. So that latter one that I just mentioned, I guess I kind of, because I've been doing a mentorship program, right, recently, and I've been mentoring uni students that are working through a company called Pillar, and they're a not-for-profit, and they help not-for-profit industries. So I recently mentored a few uni students, and I wouldn't say it kind of fits the category of like young to younger, and probably more like in the traditional style, but still the mentees were quite young. They were uni students. And so I think to that point, for people that are even just a few years into their career, I would recommend for those people, if they find an opportunity, look for those people that are perhaps a little bit younger than you, or maybe they're older than you, but they're just a step behind you in their career, because your input is still valuable and you've likely just gone through things that they're about to go through. So finding someone that's still a uni student or someone that's just entered the workforce, I feel like you're never too young to be a mentor. And it does kind of have that association to it where mentor seems like someone who is really advanced. Advanced in their career. But like we said, there's really no rules when it comes to mentorship. And then even if you're young or you're just a few years into your career, you can still provide valuable advice to someone that's about to follow through the same path.
And this might be a bit off script, we didn't really talk about this, but what do you think about someone younger mentoring someone older?
I think it's based on experience and advice. And if you have something valuable to offer that person so that they can advance their career faster, make less mistakes, take better opportunities,
Yeah,
I think age doesn't really
so
matter.
regardless of age.
Yeah.
And another one, a little bit off script, we kind of talked about it a little bit, but do you think that it's better for a female to have a female mentor or vice versa?
Well, we know that there's studies that show men tend to have, older men, they tend to kind of gravitate to young mentees that are men because they naturally feel more comfortable.
Of course.
And studies show that.
Yeah.
And I think the same for women, to be honest.
Yeah.
That naturally, as a woman, you're kind of drawn to a
Yep.
female leader. But as we know,
Yeah.
there's less women than men in senior leadership
Yeah.
roles, so it can be harder to find.
Yeah, I hear you. And before Moby was my mentor, if you would have asked me in my early 20s, what do you want in a mentor? The first thing I would have said probably would have been a strong female.
Yeah, someone to
And-
look up to and
Exactly.
really,
And
role
even
model.
with Moby as a mentor for the first few years of that relationship, I looked for a strong female to look up to. And the more I looked, the more I got disappointed. Because I'll be honest, and this is my own experience,
Yeah.
every woman that I met that I thought, she could mentor me, I was disappointed with some lack of a certain trait that I knew I already had or that I wanted. So whether it be like I didn't like the way they led a team, I didn't like the way they, displayed a lack of emotional intelligence. I didn't like the way
Yeah.
they weren't radically candid. Whatever it was,
couldn't
I was,
connect
I was
with them.
picky. The one thing, like, I'm not saying Moby's perfect, but he's definitely not perfect. But what he does is he allows for me to learn from his mistakes,
Yeah.
and he's super humble about them.
Yeah.
And I never saw that in any of the strong females. I saw a lot of obnoxious aggression from them,
Yeah.
but I didn't see that radical candor in their growth as well. So I'm like the case study. I don't think that often women are like, oh, I need a woman, or a man like, oh, I need a man. I think it's regardless of gender
Yeah.
or age, to your point.
Yeah.
And it's the value, it's the experience, and is it that bilateral transfer of, are they getting their mentoring out because they need to, because they've got a mentor that's telling them they should mentor and it helps them grow? And are you getting the value from the mentoring relationship as well?
Yeah. That's right.
A little bit of off-script stuff there for you.
All right. So we spoke about, someone young
Yeah.
who can mentor someone younger. We spoke about like the traditional model, but then there's also peers as well.
Yeah.
And we know studies show it's still just as effective as traditional type of mentorship, if you will.
Yeah.
But I guess to that point, I guess the question is why?
What?
Why?
Yeah.
Why is it still effective? And I think
Why and what is it?
true.
What is peer-to-peer mentoring, Linda?
Well, I guess there's a definition, right, between what is friendship between peers and then what is actual mentorship.
Okay.
And I'm sure people can approach that slightly differently. For me, I think that there's friendship, which is someone who's just there to listen to you, someone that you
Yep.
trust, someone that you can just talk to about what you're going through at work. But then the peer-to-peer mentorship is really being able to have that open communication dialogue
Yep.
where you can give each other advice and critique
Yeah.
and feedback.
Yeah.
And that advice could be daily stuff about
Yeah.
daily conversations you're having. It could be technical stuff, like, for example, when it comes to marketing, but it also can be advice around long-term career goals
Yeah.
as well.
Personal matters? Kind of, not really. I don't know. You and I have got
Yeah, I guess we blur
peer-to-peer
that line.
/ friendship / lots of off-script stuff that we wouldn't say in a professional podcast. But
yeah.
I definitely feel like you and I have got a peer-to-peer friendship relationship where I know
Yeah.
we can share that, we can confide in each other, but we can also say, hey, try doing it this way, like from a professional point of view.
I actually feel like, and it's not something that's been conscious, but I feel like we actually are kind of moving towards more of a peer-to-peer type mentorship.
Yeah.
I feel like the conversations we've had recently, we have kind of spoken to each other about
all
our
about this
goals.
podcast.
And
It's
I
this
know.
podcast, yep. It's just brought out so much in us. It's taken our relationship to the next level, Linda.
But honestly, I think the peer-to-peer mentorship is really, really great and shouldn't go unnoticed, because your peers are really people that are there with you, in the trenches with you,
Yep.
and they can understand what you're going through, maybe more so than what someone in more of a more senior role,
Yeah.
because they're a little bit disassociated to what you're going through.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so they can give you really tangible advice. And a really good example of that is I had read a book, and I refer to this book all the time. It's called Lean In.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And Facebook COO, Sheryl Sandberg, and she spoke about how she had older mentors. And when she got offered a job from Facebook and Google, her older mentors actually advised against it because these were new platforms. They didn't understand them. They thought it was too risky. But her peers at the time said, like, this is great. You should do that. Take a risk, go for it. And they provided really valuable counsel to her and still do to this day.
Yeah.
And she places a really big emphasis and importance on her peer-to-peer mentors as well.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So it's just as valuable.
Yeah.
And you could have a mentor, like a traditional mentor, a senior to you, but you can also have peer-to-peer mentoring.
Yeah.
There's no one right one or not wrong one. You don't need both. You don't need one nor the other. I think, like, wherever, if you're open to getting that advice and critique and push from the people around you, then I would say seek it out, look for it, get one.
So how do you do that?
Yeah, that's a really nice segue into our next topic. So what do you do if you want a mentor? Now, it's never too late. It's never too late.
Or too early.
Or too early, yeah. So if you're like just starting uni, get one. If you're finishing, or if you're 10 years into your career, 20 years into your career, I think it's never too late to get advice and try and be better and do better and push yourself. So just do it.
Yeah.
You know? Just Nike that thing. If you don't have one, that's fine. Like what we said before, it's never too late. Just if it's what you want, go out and seek one. Now, in terms of where to find one, Linda, this is good. You told me something about I think it was maybe on that topic, on that person that you were just talking about, Sheryl Sandberg.
Yeah.
Where it said you shouldn't ask someone to be your mentor.
Yeah, and you and I now, we don't necessarily agree with that advice.
Yeah, I disagreed with it because I'd be like, I guess for me, and everyone's different.
For context, right?
Yep.
The book had referenced not asking for a mentor because it should be a mutual thing. And
no, it should be the mentor, from memory, it should be the mentor finding someone that's worth mentoring.
Right.
And then the mentor saying, would you like me to mentor you? I think that's the traditional.
Yes.
And to be honest, that's what Mobes did with me. Like, he was the senior and he said, do you want a mentor? And like that happened. And I've seen it in a few people where I've tried to offer mentoring advice, but I don't know if maybe I'm just shit, but they didn't want it. So I was just like, all right, you're lost. But with that said, Linda, to the whole don't ask someone to be your mentor, I disagree with it, because I think if you see someone that you want to learn off and you want to be like, or you like the way that they do things, you going up to them and having the radical candor to say to them, can you mentor me? I need some mentoring advice. I think it shows resilience, courage, passion, determination. Now, that person you've asked will either say yes, let's do it, or they'll say no.
That's the worst thing that can happen.
That's the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah.
No. Maybe you'll say, okay, if it's a no, can you recommend someone that you think would be willing to do this? That's in a similar stature to you.
And I do think as well, just having the courage to ask that person, just in itself kind of shows the qualities like courage, for example, and the potential that you have to want to succeed.
Yeah. I would be mindful of who you're asking. Like, if you're just starting uni, I really probably wouldn't go to a CEO of a company. It's just so far-fetched. Like, you've just started uni limits. And then like this CEO is running a business. Think about what's the next logical step for you in, your career, or where you want to get to.
What I will say though, T, is I remember when I worked in a big corporate, and I was kind of just starting out, like I was in a few years in, and this is when I'd read that book, and I was like, oh my God, like I don't have a mentor. Yeah, I don't have one. I don't know who to ask. I'm too scared to ask the general manager of marketing. She was a female, so she was the first person that I thought of, but she kind of was in that such senior level that I was too scared to ask her. But to be honest, I wish I did, because obviously we had like our weekly meeting, so it wasn't too far-fetched.
Yeah.
But I wish I did have the courage to do that.
Yeah.
And so I'd recommend for people in that situation, just have the courage to ask. The worst thing that they can do is say no.
Yeah.
But on top of that they think, that's really courageous.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also it's a massive form of compliment. Like, if someone asks you to be their mentor, they're saying like, I like what you're doing. Can you you're a role model to me. I want to be like you.
Yeah.
Like, that's impressive. It's really flattering as well. So I think if you don't have one, find someone that you think would be able to mentor you. And it doesn't have to be a huge commitment from either end. It might just be like an hour here and like every 2 or 3 weeks, just to talk about some professional development things, what you should work on, where you should focus, what you're currently working on.
And on that note as well, in those sessions, I mean, it sounds so simple, but make sure that you do things like respect their time and show up, because in the end of the day, if you're asking for their time, you need to really show your commitment to them. And if you want things like sponsorship, where they endorse you and recommend you for roles, you really need to show up.
And this is where you thank them for their time, right?
This is where you think,
yeah. I think there's a power dynamic in mentor-mentee relationship, and your mentor is your superior.
Yeah.
This is definitely where, like, some of the stuff we've said before wouldn't apply here. This relationship is your mentor is your superior. You are thankful for their time, advice, and encouragement. they might see you as an equal, and that's nice. But I do think, you go to, depending on like maybe peer-to-peer is more 50-50, but the traditional mentor-mentee is definitely slightly elevated because they've done it. They've worked, they've done the hard yards, and they're telling you how to do it now and how to do it better.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, before we finish off, some benefits of having a mentor. If you haven't picked them up already with us talking, obviously having a mentor, I've got this one stat to share. Mentees are promoted 5 times more than those without mentors. So that kind of is saying if you are getting that push, that advice, that challenge from someone that has done it before or potentially a peer or a friend, I think it opens you up to being more self-reflective and critical and achieving higher results because you're not just stuck in your ways going, I already know how to do everything or I already know everything. You're eager, you're hungry to learn, and you're wanting to exceed.
Yeah.
And that mentor is helping you get there, hence the promotions, right?
Yeah.
And I know since I've had a mentor, I've been promoted many times in all of my roles. So I fit into that stat. You have better job satisfaction because you have someone you can obviously discuss that stuff with and share that info and get some guidance on your role, build your network.
Yeah. With the job satisfaction, that makes a lot of sense, to be honest. And even if that mentor is not part of the same company that you're working at, you can often go to them with advice and they can help you have better conversations with people in your organization if you're feeling friction, for example.
Yeah, exactly. Higher salaries, and my favorite one is increasing your confidence. So when you have someone that is in your corner and they're supporting you and challenging you and pushing you and celebrating those accomplishments, like we said, that's going to empower you and give you more confidence in your role and in your professional self.
That's my favorite one as well.
Yeah, definitely. Linda, anything else you want to add on to our mentoring podcast topic this week?
No, I feel like this was a really fun one to talk about, T. Like, obviously, our podcast is the Marketing Mentors, and this is something that we find really valuable, and we encourage people to go out and also seek a mentor or be a mentee as well.
Yeah, and for those of you listening, obviously, like Linda and I are open to people wanting to reach out and discuss mentoring relationships. We're not opposed to anything. With that, thank you very much, Linda.
Thanks, T.
You guys can all watch this full episode at redpandas.com.au/M5. Make sure you connect with both of us on LinkedIn and send us through your thoughts or topic ideas for any of our next podcasts.
Thanks, guys.